Today we will explain your Team 11, that is Rebels and the Raj. Revolt of 1857 and its representation. Now you turn your book to page 288. First, let's see what is the meaning of this mutiny and revolt. Mutiny means a collective disobedience of rules and regulations within these armed forces, and revolt means a rebellion of people against the established authority and power. So, in the context of the revolt of 1857, the term revolt refers primarily to the uprising of the civilian populations like the peasants, zamindars, rajas, these jagirdars, while the mutiny was the sepoys. Okay, and I want you to see your timeline, page 314. You read it by yourself. Okay, and now let's see the basic facts of the revolt of 1857. The revolt was started on 10 May of this 1857 in the towns of this Meerut, and it ended on 20 June 1858. This revolt of 1857 is called the Sepoy Mutiny because it was started by the Sepoy, means the Indian soldiers in this British Indian Army. Okay, and this revolt of 1857 is called the First War of Indian Independence. And in this revolt, the sepoys, the Indian native rulers, that is the princes, peasants, and the common people, they actively participated and revolted against the British. Okay, and the revolt of 1857 initiated by these sepoys in the Bengal presidency against the British officers. And here the first martyrs of this 1857 revolt was Mangal Pandey. Mangal Pandey attacked his British sergeant on 29 March 1857 at Barakpur, and during this time Lord Canning was the Governor General. And this revolt of 1857 marked the end of the rule of this British East India Company, and after this in 1858 India was directly ruled by the British government through representative called as Governor General. And now let's see the centers of the revolt of 1857 and the leaders of the revolt. In Meerut, the revolt was led by the sepoys. In Barakpur, present-day West Bengal, it was led by this Mangal Pandey, and in Delhi, the revolt was led by this Bahadur Shah II, the last Mughal Empire. And in Kanpur, present-day Uttar Pradesh, the revolt was led by Nana Sahib. He was the adopted son of this Baji Rao II, and he was the last Peshawar, and he was joined by Tantia Top here. Okay. And in Lucknow, Begum Hazrat Mahal, the Begum of Awadh, the wife of this Nawab Wazid Ali Shah, led the revolt. In Jhansi, present-day Uttar Pradesh, the revolt was led by Rani Lakshmi Bai, the widowed queen of this Gangadhar Rao, and she was joined by Tantia Top here. Okay, and in Jagdishpur, the revolt was led by Kunwar Singh. Okay, now we go to beginning of the revolt. It was led in the afternoon of 10 May in 1857. The sepoy in the cantonment of this Meerut broke out in mutiny, in a rebellion, and it began the line of the native infantry and spread very swiftly to the cavalry and then to the city. So the ordinary peoples of this town and the surrounding villages, they joined the sepoys, and the sepoy captured this bell of arms. What is this bell of arms? It means a storeroom in which the weapons were kept. And and they attacked these white peoples, and they burned these bungalows and these property, the government buildings, and this record office, jail, courts, post office, treasuries were destroyed and plundered, okay? And the telegraph line to Delhi was cut off. And soon the sepoy arrived at these gates of this red fort early in the mornings of 11 May, and then they demanded their Emperor Bahadur Shah II to give them his blessings and to carry the revolt in his names. And soon this Bahadur Shah became one of the leaders of this revolt. Okay, now we go to patterns of the rebellion. How the mutinies began. The sepoy began their actions with a sign or signal. They began this firing gun and sounding of the bugle. So they first seized this bale of arms, and then they plundered the treasury, and then they attacked these government buildings, jail, treasury, this telegraph office, and record rooms, bungalows, and burning all their records. So everything and everybody connected with this white man become their target, and proclamations were issued in Hindi, Urdu, and in Persian. So both the Hindus and the Muslim were united, and they fought together against this British rule. They also attacked these moneylenders and the rich people in India. Okay, and let's see the line of communications in revolt of 1857, planning and coordinations. There was communications between the sepoy lines of various cantonments after the 7 Awad irregular cavalry had refused to accept the new cadres in early May. So they write to the 48 native infantry that they had acted for the fate and waited for these 48 orders. So the sepoy moves from one station to another, and the people were planning and talking about this rebellion, and they started to join hands in fightings against the British. Okay, and now let's see the leaders of the revolts and the followers of the revolts. Okay, leaders and followers. Who were the leaders of the revolts? The leaders of the revolts were Bahadur Shah II. He was the nominal Mughal emperor during the revolt. Nana Sahib in Kanpur, the sepoy and the people of this town met this Nana Sahib, the successor of this Peshwa Baji Rao II, as their leaders. And after the revolt ended in 1858, when the rebellion collapsed, Nana Sahib escaped to this Nepal. And Rani Lakshmi Bai, in Jhansi, the Rani was forced by this popular pressure around her to assume the leaderships of this uprising. And then next is Kunwar Singh. Kunwar Singh was the local jamindar in this Ara, Bihar, and took these leaderships by the popular pressure. And you know what? The leaders of this revolt was Birjir's Quadr. And here the British displaced the popular Nawab Wajid Ali Shah and annexed the state to this British India. And during the revolt, the people of this Lucknow, they celebrated the fall of the British rule by hailing this Birji's Quadr, the young son of this Nawab, as their leaders. And now we go to rumors and prophecies. Rumors kan ti chuan nge thu thang thu the da. Prophecies kan ti chuan zol nei thu soi long na. Let's see what in revolt of 1857. During the revolts of this 1857, there were lots of these rumors and prophecies. Let's see this one. Okay, let's see the first rumors. Was this bullet coated with the fats of cow and pigs? It was a rumor that the British introduced the new Enfield rifles in the army, and the cartridge had to be bitten off before loading into the gun, and the Muslim had believed that the cartridge was greased with this pig fat, and where this Muslim believes that the grease was made of this cow fat. Okay, that was rumor number one. And rumor number two is The British had mixed the bone dust of these cows and these pig into the flour that was sold in the market. So by this, the British government had a conspiracy to destroy the caste and the religions of the Muslim and the Hindus. And rumor number three was that the British wanted to convert Indians to Christianity. So panic spread fast, and this fear stirred men into action. So they revolted against the British. Okay, and let's see these prophecies. What are they prophesying? Okay, the prophecy that British rule would come to an end on the centenary of this Battle of Plassey on 23rd June 1857, and the next prophecies was this chapati distribution. Reports came from various parts of this North Indian that these chapatis were being distributed from village to village, as a person would come at night and give a chapatis to the watchman of the village and ask him to make 5 more and distribute it to the next village, and so on. So the meaning and this purpose of the distribution of this chapati was not clear, and is not clear. People read it as an omen of an upheaval. Okay, what is the meaning of this omen? Kan ti chuan hun hriat lok na hun lo thleng tur entir na anga an ngai ani mo. And next is why did people believes in rumors? Because of these reformation policies, annexations of native states by the British, and the activities of these Christian missionaries. Okay, let's see these reformation policies. Okay, see the policies of the British pursued from these late 1820s under the leaderships of this Governor General Lord William Bentinck. The British adopted this policy of reforming Indian society by introducing Western education, and Western ideas and Western institutions were set up in English. They set up this English medium school, colleges, universities, which taught this Western science and the liberate arts, abolish this custom like this sati 1829, and to permitted this remarriage of these widows. Because of all these reformation policies, people believes in rumors. Okay, and because of the annexations of this native state like this Jhansi and the Satara, and the activities of these Christian rumors, they believes in rumors. Okay, and next is subsidiary alliance. What is this subsidiary alliance? This system was devised by Lord Wellesley in 1798, and in this all those who entered into such alliance with the British had to accept certain terms and conditions. Let's see what are the terms and conditions. Okay, the British would be responsible for protecting their ally from external and internal threats to their power. In the territory of their ally, the British armed contingent would be stationed, and the ally would have to provide the resources for maintaining their contingents, and the ally could enter into agreement with other rulers or engage in warfare only with the permissions of the British. Okay, here it witnessed the supremacy of the British government. Okay, and why is there a revolt in Owoth? A cherry that will drop into the mouths one day. Why the British annex Owoth? Let's see here. In 1851, Governor General Lord Dalhousie described the kingdom of Owoth as a cherry that will drop into the mouth one day. 5 years later, in 1856, the kingdom was formally annexed to the British Empire, and this subsidiary alliance had been imposed in this award in 1801. And a British resident was stationed in Awad, and the British became increasingly interested in acquiring the territory of Awad. Why? Because they felt that the soil was good for producing indigo and cotton. So by early 1850s, moreover, all the major areas of this India had been acquired, and the Maratha lands, the Doab, the Carnatic, and this Punjab and Bengal, they were all acquired by the British, okay? And the takeover of this award in 1857 was expected to complete a process of territorial annexation. Okay, let's see. The life was gone out of the body. What is this? How people responded annexations of Awadh. Lord Dalhousie annexations created dissatisfaction in all the areas and principalities that were annexed. In Awadh, Nawab Wazid Ali Shah was dethroned and exiled to Calcutta on the plea that the region was being misgoverned. And then the Nawab Wazid Ali Shah was widely loved. He was loved by the people, and when he left his beloved town, beloved Lucknow, there were many people who followed him all the way to Kanpur singing song of this lament, okay? And the widespread sense of grief and loss of this Nawab's exile was recorded by many contemporary observers. And next we go to this Farangi Raj and the end of world. What were the results of these annexations of Awadh? Because of these annexations of Awadh, there was a chain of grievances in Awadh, link Princess Talukdar, peasants and sepoys, and in different ways they came to identify Farangi Raj with the end of the world and the breakdowns of things they valued, respects, and their and held dear. Okay, and the whole complex of this of emotions and issues, traditions, loyalties work themselves out in this revolt of 1857. Okay, and in a word, annexation disposed the talukdars of the region. Okay, and now we go to next, that is what happened to Talukdar after the annexations of this Awadh. The countryside of Awadh was dotted with the estate and the fort of these Talukdar, who for many generations had controlled their land and power in the countryside. And before the comings of the British, these Talukdar maintained these armed retainers, built forts, and enjoy degrees of this autonomy as long as they accept the suzerainty of the Nawab and paid the revenue to their taluks. Okay, so they enjoyed a luxurious life during those periods. But after the coming of the British, everything has changed. Okay. And this immediately after the annexation was done by in Awadh, the Talukdar were dismissed and their forts were destroyed. Okay, and let's see the grievances of the sepoys. The sepoy receive low levels of this pay and the difficulties of getting leave. They find it very difficult to get leave. They won't get leave from these British. Okay, and in 1820s, white officers made it a point to maintain friendly relations with these sepoys, and in 1840s these officers developed a sense of this superiority and started treating these sepoys as their racial inferiors. And this abusing and this physical violence become common, and thus this distance between these sepoys and these officers grew very rapidly. Okay, and let's see lastly the link between these sepoys and the rural world. The large majorities of this sepoy of this Bengal army were recruited from this village of this Awadh and the eastern Uttar Pradesh, and many of them were Brahmins or from these upper classes. and the ward was called the Nazari of Bengal. So the changes at the families of these sepoy shows around them and the trade they perceived were quickly transmitted to these sepoy lines. Okay, so in turn, the fear of these sepoy about these new cadres, their grievances about their leaves, the growls about the increasing misbehaviors and this racial abuse on the parts of the white officers were communicated back to the village. Okay, okay, khati zong kha voina kan explain thei chu nia chuan in homework tur chu in note textual question kha question number 1 to 5 kha in lo by hat vek don nia. Oh, thank you all.